Okay, we are live. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday night Zoom. It is Sunday, June 20th, 2021, and we are on chapter 4 of the Count to 4 system, and it was about choosing your goal. So as we do every week, two of us, now the three of us back together again. We see what is new and good with everybody. Priya, since we haven't seen you for a while, why don't you start? What's new and good for you?
Yeah, well, actually, today my son celebrated his 21st birthday, so that was a good time.
Good.
And we have here in Canada just entered into what we're calling phase 1, or at least Ontario, of kind of getting back to life. So we've slightly reopened some things. So that's nice to have a little bit, to actually see some people. We were allowed to have people over today. That's been great. And just in general, on the manifestation front, things are lining up and continuing to come forward into fruition of the goals and the things that I've set. So this is a great chapter for this week.
Excellent. Carolyn?
I agree. This was a great chapter for this week, and glad to see you back, Priya. We missed you.
I missed you guys too.
So, and you're healthy again from the shot. I know last week was the shot.
Yeah, just a couple weeks ago, having a shot with I was just a little bit worn out from it, just tired. But yeah, otherwise good. Thank you.
So, no, I mean, everything's just progressing along. I still am doing, the readings and I do. I thought this was a good chapter. I thought this book so far has been a good book. So good choice, Rodney.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, thank you.
Now we're back to you, Rodney.
I think we had a collaboration on this between two of us.
And happy Father's Day, Rodney.
Oh, yes,
thank
Rodney,
you.
happy Father's Day.
Thank you. So, well, I crossed the $10,000 mark, so I'm on the board with everybody else.
Yay! Very good.
Yeah, because I was at 58 something, and then I went over 4,500 something this week. So yeah, so that's good. And
It's not even July yet.
no, it's not. It is not July. And I started working on cleaning something up that I've been dealing with for, well, I haven't been dealing with it, but other people figured I should be dealing with it for almost 10 years. So I took a major step at that. So that has brought a lot of relief. So moving on. Now, well, Priya doesn't know, but Carolyn and we had a discussion about change on the ground the other week. And so the challenge that Carolyn had made to me was to see if I could, the discussion was that, do you believe, Priya, that you can manifest a penny?
Manifest
a penny.
A penny.
Yes.
We don't deal in pennies anymore in Canada, but yeah, I bet I could manifest one.
Okay, so then the question was, if the average person believed that they could do that, do they believe that they could do that every day? I mean, you can trip over that, but the problem comes in when you say, okay, well, instead of a penny, manifest $100 bill every day. And then that's where most people are like, oh, I can't do that. I have never even found one. So Carolyn issued the challenge. Well, it wasn't a challenge, but to see if I could manifest a penny every single day. Because what I used to do is I would not pick it up for the most part.
Really?
And yes. And that's what Carolyn said. Exactly. And it was
they find a penny, pick it up all the day. You'll have good luck. What the heck?
I never heard that. But
never heard that.
No.
Oh.
But I heard about the midnight ride of Paul Revere. So, but anyway, no, I wasn't. And the discussion then led into, well, that's kind of like poo-pooing the universe because that's abundance.
It is.
That's what Carolyn told me. She said, you can't do that, Rod. You got to pick that stuff up. Even if
Yeah.
it's sticky and it's
I know.
facing the wrong way.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, so the question was if I could manifest it every day. Now, we did not meet last week, but I continued on with it. So since that Sunday, Carolyn,
Okay.
starting that Monday, I have manifested at least 1 penny a day, except for 3 days.
Wow. Good.
But every other time, yes. So
So
that,
what's your total now? How much are you up to? How rich are you?
well, it turned out to be like 16 cents.
Well,
16. Oh, good. Well, I don't feel so bad. I manifested a quarter one time. I haven't found any pennies, but I'm ahead of you still.
Right? Well, there you go.
So I look down and I go, oh, it's a quarter. Whoa. So I picked it up and I haven't seen anything since. So
Well, but I remember what you said that, that's abundance.
that's
And
and would you say that I would look at that and be like, so instead of doing a penny a day, I just did 25 at once.
That's what I did.
Okay.
I was really happy. I was excited. As a matter of fact, I went and bought a little bank, put it under my car seat, and every time I find a penny, I'm going to put it under my car seat.
Nice.
That's got a quarter in there right now, a lonely quarter. So yeah, no, I'm gonna keep track of my manifestations. So
right. But the thing I was looking for is something that the average person can actually believe is true. And most people, probably almost anybody has found the penny somewhere. Even if it was somebody using the penny in the jar to pay it was $2.01 and they took a penny out of the cup, but they manifested a penny, which is very, very believable. But a lot of people cannot believe that you could manifest $100 or even $5 or $1 a day. That seems to be a sticking point. Now we know that's different, which leads into another thing. Today, Father's Day, of course, all of a sudden now this is kind of weird. I get a message from the bank that your daughter, well, it didn't say your daughter, it said her name, has sent you $100. Now, I started to feel kind of weird about that, but then I thought about something. Because I was about ready to, what I was going to write back to her, I was going to say, thank you, honey. You didn't have to do that, but I didn't do that because I heard Carolyn in the back of my head saying, and then I heard Priya too, because that is, and I heard Andrew too, actually. And so I just said, thank you, honey. I appreciate that. That's what I said. And I stopped myself from kind of pushing that away or not being as appreciative of it as I should. I mean, was that the right move? I saw Priya make some kind of motion there.
Yes, because it's also you're being receptive. So appreciative also, but receptive to it. Because if money shows up and you don't receive it, then you're kind of telling the universe you're not open to receiving the money. So you could have all kinds of money just showing up for you and not getting through.
And also don't apologize for it.
Oh God, no.
No, and it's also your daughter's chance to say, I can give. I have this much abundance that I can give to you with no problem. And if you had said, no, you don't have that much abundance, you're giving her the wrong message.
Right. And that reminded me of a story I had heard a while ago. I guess Jesus was at a church and they were taking offerings and an older lady had come in and she had given, what she could give to, what was it?
Two mites.
Okay, so you know the story. And, which was basically almost everything she had. And then the apostle that was with Jesus said, well, we should return that because she needs that more. And Jesus said, no, because she has given more than anybody else in this church.
Right. Right.
And we do not have the right to, you know, tell her that she cannot give because that's what she wanted to do. And I mean, that's basically was the distance story, but we know what it was. And yeah, so you're absolutely right. So I didn't do that, but it was kind of funny because I had helped somebody out yesterday with that same amount. And
So
then today it just popped back in. It's
that's good. That's good.
So
so
if you now, because I look at that as that's feedback from the universe. So you're on an energetic even scale. You're getting back what you're giving. Now you want to ramp it up and amp it up to I get even more. I give as much as I want and I get even more in return.
right, and that's around the corner because that other contract is coming through. So I did my testing, Carolyn, and went to the FBI and got my fingerprints and everything done. So yeah, so that's on the
Did
horizon
I
too.
did you get arrested while I was away? Why were you at the FBI?
No, because I have to get
Catch up with you.
no, I have to get clearance.
Now he needs bail, Priya.
No,
I was like, "What's going on? One penny at a time, we'll bail you out."
no,
And you know,
no.
Canada doesn't have pennies, so it's gonna be a long time from
My
Canada.
money's not worth as much as yours, so hang in there. I'm coming.
Well, I know not to send Priya a message, but anyway, I'll be there for a week, but it's okay. No,
My pennies are like the lady in the church.
I had to get security clearance. So,
Okay.
they have to do background, all that stuff. So, yeah, but I mean, again, now I'm thinking about Jim Rohn and I'm thinking about, this idea that we get paid for value. And, I don't know why some people don't understand this, that it's not about being paid for time. You get paid for the value you bring to the marketplace. Like your coaching, Priya, people pay you $15,000 for a coaching session because of the value that you give them.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody was just starting out and said, well, I'm going to charge $15,000, it may not be the same because they don't have the experience. They don't have, a lot of things that you have, because you've been doing this, you build up a reputation, and you're known in that area. Same thing with Carolyn. She's been in her business now, 30 years, Carolyn? And,
Yep.
They know the go-to person is Carolyn. They call Carolyn when they have this, they need something. They know that she's going to get it done. And she can also demand a premium if she wanted. But people don't understand this, because you still talk to people like that are in a job or something. And it's like, well, I'm having trouble making ends meet with what they pay me here. Well, then you got to become more valuable. That's what you got to do, even within your own job. Maybe you can take some classes. Maybe you can, I don't know what somebody's particular job is, but I mean, look at how many Fortune 100 company owners started in the mailroom and actually climbed that ladder to the CEO of the company. I mean, today that's not that easy to do, but Priya's got this look on her face.
Well, because a little bit too, like I look at, I've got 2 kids in their 20s right now, and I'm helping them to build their own businesses. And it isn't often, like, even you have to look at, when I look at my daughter who spent umpteen thousands of dollars for her knowledge, that in itself is a value. So I have not, like, maybe she doesn't have experience, but you come out of college with $100,000 worth of knowledge or $50,000 worth of knowledge that somebody else doesn't have. So there is a level, and I think that the mindsets of the marketplace are changing somewhat to recognize that, because even beyond for myself, yes, I have 17 years of coaching experience, but the amount of money I've invested in learning things that other people don't have to now take all those certifications and courses and whatnot, that also becomes part of my pricing because I've gone through that. I've taken my time, my effort to acquire knowledge that I'm just, here you go, like this. Here, you can just have this. I went through all the stuff that you don't need, and here you go. So I think too, yes, people can definitely work their way up, but I also think that you can adapt a mindset and start to create differently right from the get-go. And it doesn't always have to be within the confines of your own job, right? So
No, it
just
doesn't.
or even earning, it doesn't even have to come from earning income. But if we can really open up our mindset to allowing abundance in, it just can flow from anywhere.
Right.
Absolutely. Now you said something about the certifications that you had to take that now maybe they don't have to take them. But that all built value. Your kid's coming out of college. She came out of school with value already built into her. So when she's in the marketplace, she's doing the magazine, she's doing all these other things. She is then putting that value out there in the marketplace. Now, at the beginning, of course, she has to build up a following, but because of her value, the person that goes to school and spends $200,000 to become a doctor, when they come out, they are going to start at a higher dollar amount than somebody that's going to start working at Denny's.
Yeah. And I think too, it's something that we as people who are seeking jobs or creating contracts and things like that with businesses need to remind business owners, and we need to teach our kids and anybody that we know that let's remind those people that yes, you are getting X service done, but also I do bring a value to this job, or I do bring, like I tell my kids to go tell them, like, you bring that X amount of dollars versus plus it's current knowledge. It's not 10 years ago. So you may not have in the marketplace a work experience, but you have the most current knowledge that somebody who graduated 10, 20 years ago doesn't have up-to-date teachings on. They might have picked it up, right? So I think too, it's a tweaking of mindsets all around, and people have to learn to open up and change to the way that we perceived value. It's funny because we were talking about this today because some of my son's friends were over. We're talking about how, because I haven't seen them for a while, how they're doing in getting jobs and things like that, and recognizing that there as a shift having to occur in the marketplace because people have to change what they were perceiving as value and what makes the world go round and what we're placing that value on.
And what was their answer? How are they doing? Have they
Yeah.
did
So
they
I
take
think
that information and receive that graciously, or?
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just even coming from me. It was some of it's coming from them. So I have, a 21-year-old who is sort of torn between, he started in a community college for a business program, but was just not really feeling the connection to it. And he had worked previously as summer with a construction landscaping company with a man who retired in the past year. And he went and had a conversation with him. And the man was saying to him, if you're interested, the trades are really the trades are going out of style. Not very many people. It's like what Carolyn says, right? And they're going to be needed. So if you're, looking at it, because that's another thing we look at when we talk about value, you have to look at, we're training so many people for things that the market is saturated with, but yet we didn't update our value system because it was like, if you were a tradesperson, you were looked down upon. It was like you wanted to go white collar. And now I don't know about you guys, but over here in Canada, you need to get a plumber or an electrician. You're crying before you even make that call, even if it's the tiniest thing, like your little toilet lever is broken, because you're like, that call. Because it's hard to get a tradesperson these days. And when you do get them, the bills are high because they are a hot commodity, right? There's not a saturation. There's a demand for them because not many people are going into that. So I think too, it comes down to the kids are starting to see, because technology is changing so quickly. So some of the kids are standing back and saying, let me have a look at where life is going to go in the next 5 or 10 years and see where I want to invest my dollars, where I don't think we were taught, at least not so much myself that way, to a degree of having to perceive the world in 5 or 10 years because there was more of a stability. But these days, things are changing so quickly that we also have to keep abreast of what is valuable because the values are changing from like, year to year, month to month sometimes.
And our schools are programming kids to go to college. I mean, they're pushing college, and there's just not that many, as you said, there's not that many, college degrees. We have an abundance of lawyers. I mean, the last thing we need was one more lawyer right now. We need people that are willing. We're having trouble finding a roofer. I mean, it's just somebody to put on a roof. So it is, we need to say, hey, these are valuable things. I can't do roof. I can't do plumbing. I can't do a lot of things. I don't want to do the yard work. I can do that, but I don't want to do it, and so, there should be people that are there because they serve a need.
Absolutely. Now that brings up a question. Now Priya was just saying how the landscape has changed. Now, remember the model that we all grew up in was, you go to school, then you go to college, you get with a company, you stay with that company for 30 years, 40 years, and you retire. Now, do you believe that model is out the window?
Oh, yeah.
Today?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's very few companies now that are giving people pensions and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not happening anymore.
So
do you think there are still some industries, or like I don't know why this comes to mind, but I think I know some people that say work in library services. So they're probably, if there's certain paths that people take in life that they're probably either passionate about or they're dedicated to it, or a system that you kind of get into and it's hard to get out of. I think there's still certain positions like that. Like I know people who they just can't get out of their job at this point in life because it's too difficult to get into something else, and they've sort of crossed a threshold of where you're a for lifer type of thing. But I think there's two things that are changing. I think that people, and particularly the young people coming up for employment, they don't have those types of desires to be in those long-term commitments. Their lifestyle changes, the world is changing, and so they're having to adapt as they go along and wanting to. And I feel as though their value system is different, whereas I think most of us grew up in a value system where you just respected your employer and you respected what you could get. And I think that it's with a healthy a balance in it, having that self-value, which I think a lot of the kids have almost to a level of entitlement. So it's a little bit of a borderline that you have to be mindful of. But I think that people are starting to recognize, and employers are going to have to make a shift in recognizing that people are seeing their own worth. And it comes beyond, just as you started at the top of the conversation saying, that value isn't in a service or the time that you bring in, it's the value that you add to the company. So somebody that comes in and clears the trash out of a company, well, if the building didn't have that person and they now are infested with, pests or something like that, they are not functioning. Nobody else wants to come to work. There's so many things and I think with the pandemic hitting and this whole focus and shift onto frontline workers, and when really seeing when we're at our worst case scenario, what really is the value? Who do we really rely on? Do you want to see Kim Kardashian or the 16-year-old kid that slugs it out to the supermarket to check your groceries out? Who are you really valuing at that point in time? So I think there has been a shift in terms of that and people seeing and knowing. But I do think that it is going to shift further where employers and people who are hiring or providing freelance contracts or whatever are going to have to shift and recognize the value of the service and not just the time.
Right. And I think I read something somewhere like with the younger people, their average job length is 3 to 5 years until they're switching, to somewhere else. Not necessarily switching out of their field, but switching from, they're more like contract workers.
Yeah.
They contract on for this amount of time, and then they move on to this because but Carolyn brought up a point, like they're still about the idea that they're still pushing people to go to college. I think a lot of that, and there's nothing wrong with college,
No,
but I think a
No,
lot of that
no.
still is from that old model,
yeah,
Yeah.
that model of you need to become a good employee. And more people today, because your kids, my kids, they're seeing that their parents, us, were not the employee type. You know, maybe for a little bit. I mean, like I was in cable for like 10 years, but I was a contractor. But my kids always saw that I was making my way. You know, I was doing things on my own. Sometimes I was falling on my face, but, you know, but I think that too kind of drove them kind of away from that idea of I just got to lock down with something and stay forever, you know. And
I also think too, it comes from the environment that you're raised in, and if you are very fear-based, if you grow up in a fear-based home of security and comfort and stability, it will keep you in that employee type of mentality and hang on to it and don't take chances and don't risk this, and oh, you've got a pension or you've got benefits, don't rock the boat kind of a thing. So I think there will always be some of that around because there are always going to be people who are fearful and don't align with being deliberate creators. I mean, what was the statistic here in the chapter? 98 people don't have a goal out of 100 or know what they want.
right,
So they just go by, okay, what most people focus on what they need versus what they want. And it is very basic and, sort of mindset. I shouldn't say basic, but it's more set in a mindset of I got to pay my bills. I got to pay my rent or my mortgage, on this day and this day, and I have to pay this and that. So I need that much money and I need this. And they don't go beyond anything other than that.
And the other thing I think it is people don't think once they get out of school, they're done with their education. It's like, okay, I did my 4 years, I did my 8 years, I did my master's, whatever it is, I've done. And they really, they don't pick up like to do Abraham or something like that. They just stop and say, I know my business and now I'm going to go have fun and go have a good time and whatever. So, I mean, a lot of people are not exploring different avenues for that. They're just accepting what's there.
Well, I think it comes down to as well that we haven't really been advocates for, knowledge as a pastime or something of
Oh,
fun. And
yeah.
so it's really been, knowledge or seeking higher learning has often been equated to a drag, a punishment, a thing you got to do kind of a thing where I say to my kids, like, I'm going to be 50 next year and I'm still taking programs and certifications. And, I was off because like I'm writing an exam and the kids are, and I see other people and they're not interested. And there's so many things. And I'm always saying to my kids, like, there's so many things I would like to learn to do or try, or I look at sometimes people's jobs and think, wow, that's a cool job. I'd like to do that. And then I think about it and I'm like, would you like to do it beyond 1 or 2 days, Priya? Or would you just
like no, I just like to try it.
yeah, like I think I could write people's name in their coffee. Yeah, I think that would be a really cool job to do until, it doesn't, I don't know. But I just think that also we do not encourage like a thirst for learning or a joy and a pleasure in learning. So it becomes very much like what do you call it? Cause and effect. So it's sort of like you need this to get that. If you want this, you got to get that degree. You got to get that certification. You got to get that designation in order to have that kind of thing. So I think that because what's being offered in terms of knowledge is also broadening, it's shifting and changing. Like when I look at my kids, and I think that my son can go out and get a degree in holistic psychology and an alternative. I mean, this was not a possibility for me, as someone with different abilities and gifts. So that in itself, the plethora of opportunity that is available because the world is shifting and becoming more open and aware, there are other opportunities and avenues. But again, it really is that 98 out of 100 factor. That's just sort of where we're at right now, of people kind of not going outside and pushing the limits of what life can be and accepting that this is just the way it is. I go to work, and when we have higher powers that have agendas to keep many people in those mindsets, you know, it takes a
Oh,
little
of course.
something to wake you up and want you to push to find something more.
Right.
Right, and even if you have parents like that or grandparents like that, yeah, well, I mean, Priya with our mom, it's like, was it legal for you to be doing that and charging that kind of money? Because that's not the normal thing. But again, but it's so sad because even a lot of these people, the younger people today, some of them still have this belief that like Carolyn said, they've got their schooling. Now my education is out of the way, and now it's time for the job.
Yeah.
And that right there. And then you said that, people don't want to learn. And I love that quote from Jim Rohn, where he says, formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune.
Yeah.
But it's not big things. I posed this question when we started the Science of Getting Rich book, and that was, why is this not taught in school? It's free. It was a public domain book. They could teach it in school, and the reason is because they don't want all these kids in elementary school running around saying, well, I want to be a business mogul when I grow up. I want to do this. I want to create this. I want to, invent this. No, they want them to say, hey, I'm going to work here. I'm going to work for the company. I'm going to, they don't want free thinkers.
Well, you have teachers that have the curriculum already set. This is what we're going to teach, and this is where we're going to go. And they haven't gone outside the bounds either, because that's how it's just a recycling of knowledge that they've had all along. So that's why it's not taught, because the teachers don't think this way either. This is the important thing. That's the way they've always done it. You need to know your fundamentals. You need to know who won the French and Indian War, which I can't remember who won that. So
But these are things, it's chosen. Like, I don't know about you guys, but here our curriculum is either set by the province. There's certain things that are federal standards, and then they're set by the province. So the government decides what our kids can learn and what is important for them to learn, and how they're going to receive that information, and what processes and thinking skills that they require. And that's it. So when you look at it, you do think, like, when we're going back to school, because we've been, the kids are not in school right now. Our schools are still closed, so they're learning virtually. I mean, I've seen people who just pull their kids right out of the system because they say their kids aren't going to virtual school, so there's no point. They've pretty much lost a year. And now we fight between what the teachers union and things. So there's so much more to it than what's really going to create a society that is, as you say, free thinking, that is productive, that is happy, healthy. There's so many things out there that are not afforded to us, and we're not encouraged to be on board with.
Right. And the amazing thing is, I've seen some of these high school kids, because I've got nieces and nephews, or great nieces and nephews, and I mean, they get through with their curriculum in 3 years, and they maybe have one class their senior year, and they pretty much go to one class their whole year. And I'm going, really? I had to be my butt had to be in school. It was not, oh, you only have one class, you can take it at 8 in the morning and leave.
Yeah.
I mean, and the curriculum really did water down from the time I got out of school to the time I became a teacher. It was like, we had to write essays. A lot of times they don't do that. It's a question and answer, or it's multiple choice, and you got a 50% chance or 25% chance of getting the right answer. So it's just.
It is. And my daughter's 11. She'll be 12 in September. So she said, Mom, like, I had a project that I did, and the cutoff for the report card was the day before my project was marked. So that doesn't count. And there's a whole month of school where none of the work that I do, my report card is determined. So you can imagine, it's almost like saying, okay, well, Rodney, Carolyn, your paycheck is as of yesterday, but you're going to work for another month, but it's not going to, you're not going to get anything for it. So there's a level of, the kids are seeing the systems too. And it starts to kind of, that I feel like it starts to set the mindset of, well, you just do what you're told, and you get what you get, and you work sometimes for something and you don't get anything for it. These are the types of things that start to create those types of mindsets.
Yeah,
absolutely. And back to what Carolyn was saying, But again, Carolyn, don't forget, nowadays, they don't teach kids for learning. They're teaching them how to test. That's,
Right.
that's the whole thing. We got to get they got to get the kids ready to pass the test.
The
They don't
scores
need
gotta
to
be
know
high.
anything.
Yeah, they've
Yeah.
got, scores have to be high.
Yes.
Because, and
And-
that's the thing, because we have the school gets tested by the province on how the kids, right? So it doesn't, it doesn't matter. There are no children in elementary school that fail. I don't know what you guys do over there, but in our province, the children don't fail in elementary school anymore. They just get pushed through. Like I remember my age, kids that got held back. So it's
Right.
like, what does that say? Well,
You don't have
and
to
then
do, yeah,
we wonder how people get into, you're working with somebody and you're like, how did you get here? How do you not know this and that, and you're here? But that's the world that we live in,
Well,
but I do, when I see some of the kids come out with investing that kind of money in their degrees and whatnot, and then they're the measurement is, well, you can't find a job because you don't, then they're telling them you don't have the work experience. Well, I can't gain the work experience if I don't get the job. And so they get depressed, and it just starts this whole vicious cycle of it, to your value is relevant to, can you obtain this position, or can you match these two things? And so when you start to look at how do people lose their self-value, and how do they start to adapt to what employers tell them is their value, is because sometimes it's just like, I need a paycheck, or I need something. So you get into the system.
right.
right. And, like here, a couple things have changed. Like, they don't, for the younger kids, they don't teach the Constitution anymore in the schools, because they don't want you to know about it. Because eventually, years from now, if somebody talks about, oh, well, we're governed by this Constitution that says that the government can do this, can't do this, they'll be like, what? That's not a real thing. No, that never happened, and it's like they taught I remember a couple of years ago, my granddaughter, she had come home, and I mean, she's older now, but they said, like, the Pilgrims and the Indians, oh, they were good friends, and they came together lovingly for Thanksgiving. And, the Indians were so helpful, they gave the land. And it's like, no, that is not what happened. And
Well,
then this other thing with, like, the younger kids, elementary school, there's no winners and losers in sports. Everybody wins, which I think leads into what you were just saying, Priya, that
yeah,
it starts to give this false impression to people that, hey, I'm no different than anybody else. I don't
exactly.
need to do anything different than anybody else. Why should I try to be better? Why should I try and excel? Because if I'm the best at this sport, everybody else gets a trophy as well.
Yeah.
So
And
there's no reason.
well, if we worked with that kind of maintain that attitude, and you're like, sorry, I'm just trying to put my charger on, have maintained that attitude in the workplace where you can see that they're like, oh, well, we don't need to try because we're just all going to get it. And you see that the different efforts. And I think that's where people start to feel frustrated, because there are some people that come in with that value offering mindset. I'm here. I don't care if it's that I pour coffee or I'm a neurosurgeon. I show up and I put my best efforts forward, but it doesn't seem to be rewarded or valued. So then
Right.
it does start to create a sense of, well, just put your time in, because whatever, you just got to put your time in, because it comes down to who like where the favorites are, whatever it might be. Sometimes it's just not, there's no rhyme or reason to, that the value that you put forth creates a certain result.
And
Right.
the problem is that carries forward then the rest of their lives.
Yes.
Once they've learned that pattern, it just keeps going.
Well, it becomes a belief, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then they go for their first job, and then they don't get the job, and they're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean I didn't get it? I'm
The job.
supposed to get it because I filled the application out. I automatically get the job. It's like, what do you mean? No, we all get the job. If we filled the application out, we get the job. And it's like, no, sorry, Junior, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You're why should you have this job? Well, because I showed up. That's why I should have it. What other reason could there be?
Yeah,
Well,
like what more
maybe
do you
because
need?
you know what to do. Oh, I don't know what to do. It's, and but yeah, it's a sad situation, but it's up to each of us to, you know, talk to kids. I love what Earl Show said, if any child comes to you and you tell them, hey, you have the intelligence to do anything and be
Mhm.
anything that you want in this world. You know, none of this stuff, well, you're too stupid. You're never going to be
Yeah,
able to do that. And parents say that stuff.
I know.
And
Or don't, that's outside of your qualifications, or maybe you're not up for that. And that's the thing, because and it is, sorry, because my ex-husband is very much of that type of a mindset. So it's been a struggle trying to help my kids along and move them, and even say to my daughter, like, I'm giving you this opportunity because you're living in my house. You don't need to pay rent right now. So you're in this beautiful time of, what would you like to do? Because we can make anything happen. It's like a magic wand. So you tell me, you want to do this, you want to do that, you just tell me and we'll get it. But and it's hard to break the mindset of, no, I need a job and I needed this and I'm like, but finally starting to come around, but it's so deeply ingrained,
It is.
and like, we're two people, we're parenting two kids, one of us with one message and one with the other, and that they took that message from their dad so deeply that it's difficult to deprogram.
well, and back to this doing more, because back to the book that we're talking about, but most people, adults, I mean, most of the people I went to school with or whatever, very few of them have their own businesses. They're all still working at a job like from out of high school or something like that. And it's like, well, what do you want? I mean, it's, well, I did have a dream to do this or do this. Well, okay, well, why is it not something to move forward on? Well, I only got a few more years and I can retire. I got to, just stick it out 12 more years. But they don't, they come home. I'm not talking about my people. Well, no, I'm talking about people. They come home from work. It's like they open a beer, they sit down and watch Netflix. I got to watch this and do this. I got to get up for work in the morning. I don't have time to be better.
They don't, it's what you're interested in, and they're just not interested in furthering themselves. I mean, people that are interested in, but Priya, to your point about your husband and your ex-husband and you, is not only is it your ex-husband, it's the message of society too.
Yeah, it
It's,
is. And so it's very, it's almost like, sometimes I think they look at me and think, or because even similar, I said something to my mom about this and she's like, well, not everybody's gifted like you are. And I was like, sure they are. I mean, in their own way, everybody is gifted and unique, and they can do whatever if they tap in and tune into their own gifts. So
right.
100% they are. I don't think that, but I feel like people, it's that old type of adage of, oh, well, you're just lucky. Like, oh, you're lucky. You have good luck. I don't have good luck. I'm like, no, I'm a deliberate creator. Like, I create the things that happen for me. I don't just follow. I almost get insulted when people say to me, well, you're just lucky. No, I'm not. I did that on
No,
purpose.
because
Damn
you
it.
worked hard. You
Well,
went through all these courses.
I
You
work
went through,
hard. I work consistently, and I put my vibration as the most important thing in how I show up for
You're
me.
focused.
Yeah, every day. And that's what is sometimes challenging, because life happens at you and ups and downs come, but I really put a lot of focus and importance on keeping my vibe where I know it needs to be, because the alternative is it's going to tank. And when my vibe tanks, my life tanks. So it isn't just about, being a hard worker and showing up, because there's lots of people that work hard. I mean, when we say work hard, like hard labor or hard, every day get up slugging it out, and they're not having the same types of rewards. So it isn't just about hard work, it's about purposeful work, intentional work. And like this chapter says, it's the goals. If the goal is just to meet your bills, then that's what you'll obtain. And that's one of the first things, I wasn't sure I was going to coach with this new coach I hired. It was one of the first things she said, how much money are you making right now? She didn't ask me directly, she's asking everybody. And it's like, and how much money do you have in the bank? Okay, well, that's what you're programmed for. Right. So it comes back to how you started the top of the conversation, Rodney, with the pennies. So if you're programmed to get a penny, you're going to find pennies. If you're programmed to find dollars, you're going to find dollars. If you're programmed to find $100 bills, you're going to. So it really, it hit me because I was like, she's so right. I'm programmed to X dollars, which is still great, but it's not where I want to go. And it's just a simple tweaking of programming. But people, they either don't buy into that. They don't want it, because if it's like, well, if I could have programmed myself, if it were that easy, then everyone would be doing it. But people don't want you to know. And it isn't that it's that easy. It takes their steps to it until it becomes your new program. And then it's that easy. Like I know a time where, $1,000 a month was my maybe my programming. And then it went to $5,000 a month. Because once you do something, you have the neural pathways of how to do it. Once you know how to brush your teeth, unless you have some sort of head trauma, you're very unlikely to forget how to do it because it's a skill you have. And it's the same way with earning money or creating money. Once you've done it once, how many times have you seen stories of people who have gone bankrupt and then they remake the fortunes again? Because they have two patterns that they've practiced. One, making the fortunes, and then they have the other one where they lose them. So it's just, which if they don't keep on track of which one they're doing, is when they get sloppy, right? And you become sloppy thinkers, then that's when they lose the money again.
Right, but you can't take away their knowledge. That's why they
know how to go back and do it. Like I never ever think like worry about creating money because I know I can do it, like out of anything. So that's never a belief or fear. Like, so for my children, they benefit from that vibration because I'm like, oh, well, geez, don't worry about money. Like we can always make money. That's not a thing. What I'm concerned about is, are you happy? Are you enjoying what you're doing? Are you contributing to society? Are you elevating the consciousness? Are you doing something that's leaving, other people in a better state and you too? So that's more so where I'm trying to push my kids into, but making money, that's easy stuff.
But you made a good point though. Because the point is,
I made one good point out of all that talking. Jeez.
That's the only thing I took away from it. So the thing was, sometimes I think you like to hear you talk. But anyway, but we love it. Carolyn and I were crying each time before we went live.
And I told him last week when we didn't meet, I said Priya was going to do all the talking this week because she hasn't been here in a while. So I'm having Priya talk.
That girl's been pent up and she needs to let it out. But anyway, you did make the point, like, okay, so somebody's, worth doing the dollar thing, and, then you're $100 person and $1,000 person. And you said that a lot of people won't buy into that. But the point is, we all have the ability to change that. That is the point. And yes, a lot of people do not necessarily believe that. And it is not easy, but it is simple. What do? You pick up a book, you get on a call, you listen to somebody that's done it. That's what you do. You take a step, because that one step is going to start a whole different path that you were not on.
And the thing is, they aren't going to buy into it. They bought into it. They just don't know they've bought into it. It's just the way it's going to be. If you think you're going to make $100, you're making $100, whether you acknowledge it or not. If you think you're going to make 1,000, you're going to make 1,000. You've bought into it. You just haven't acknowledged that you've bought into it.
Well, like Abraham always says, it doesn't matter whether you believe in the law or not. You're still using it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But also with the penny, right? I think too, when I know it's just a concrete example, but also I think there are levels of nobody values a penny. So that's not a big deal. So there's no real resistance to that because, oh yeah, I can do that. There's pennies lying on the ground every day when I walk around. But then when we start to up the ante, it becomes, there's a scarcity. Oh, well, there aren't $100 bills lying on the ground everywhere somewhere, right? There's a belief in scarcity that's not as available as, say, pennies that we could find daily. So there isn't, the belief isn't there around it, because they believe that that's not as accessible.
But you're right, and that's the point, that they do believe that they can just trip over pennies. But that's why you have to then tie to that, I believe, the gratitude, and treat that penny with the gratitude like this was $100. Be so thankful for that abundance. And I believe, like you said, then it's going to start coming more and more. And it will come in larger and larger amounts. But you
Yeah.
have to, you can't get the larger amounts until you're happy with smaller amounts.
But you
You
also
know?
have to get into the mindset and the energy of being in the larger amounts. So it's you have to create the space for that. So you have to, it's one, yes, you most certainly have to be appreciative of what you've got in the small amounts, but you have to create that energetic space for you to move into the larger amounts. So if you're, and you know by when you get there.
Right. But that's building your consciousness. That's like you were saying, somebody, you were earning $1,000 a month, and that's what you were used to. And all of a sudden somebody went up to 1,500. Now that's building their consciousness up until eventually they're at $100,000, $200,000 a month. And most people are like, well, that's totally impossible. I can never do that. Well, you could.
And but
You're
when
not
you
going to do
look
it
back,
tomorrow.
right, I think that's where people don't allow themselves to get there, because they don't have the goals. So they don't start to create the multiple pictures of what could contribute to that goal becoming a reality. And so they don't get into the, the vibration of it. So there isn't, it's right to, yeah, I'd like that, but I can't have it. And then that's what keeps cycling, versus let me think about it. I'll tell you, one of the things I see daily in my coaching practice, oh, I want this. Okay, so or when it comes down to money, well, how are you going to spend it? What do you want it for? Well, I don't know. I might take a trip, or I might like do this or pay some bills. And I'm like, money is an energy. If you don't like, I don't want you to call me and be like, hey, come over sometime. Okay, what are we going to do? I don't know. Just sit there till I know what I want to do with you. Just come over and sit on my couch, and then I'll tell you when I know what I want it. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Money's the same way. So there has to be the purpose attached to it. You got to call it in for something. And also, like, I think that so many people, again, they don't know what they want, because the goal is often misdirected to what they think is going to fill the hole.
Right. And they also think it's always going to cost, and they don't want to write it down because they don't believe that they have the resources to create it, when they don't understand that they don't need the resources to create it. They need to write it down, and then they'll start to create, and the resources will create themselves to make it a reality.
Yeah, because I did the prosperity journal. I started it in March, I think, of 2020 or February, something like that. And then I got off track with it. But I happened to pull it out the other day and recognize that a lot of the things that I had put in my prosperity journal, I actually got them in the last year. And I hadn't acknowledged it. I took the time now to do it. But I was like, wow, it's just that simple. Like it's sometimes it's just too easy. And then you think, why are we not doing this? It's just
Exactly.
mind-blowing sometimes. Like, I almost feel like, why are we being so crazy and not doing this such easy stuff that's going to make life so different?
Well, and I think a lot of people think that everything is a jump. Like, okay, so you're making 5,000 a month, and this person's making $200,000 a month, and you're like, well, I could never do that. But you don't go from 5,000 to 200,000. That's not what you do. You go from 5,000, 7,500 to 10,000. It's a progression. And then eventually you get there. I mean, you could go from 5 to 2. I'm not saying that's not impossible, but that's how most people look at it. They look at that big jump, and then of course it's a gap.
Yeah. And I think that the incremental growth has to do with your resistance, because as Abraham would say, it's just, it happens as fast as you'll allow it to happen. So
Right.
sometimes you get to a point where, you may say, oh, well, I can't go from 5,000 to 200,000, but I could maybe go to 10. But that's just an allowance piece. Like if you can allow yourself to go from 5,000 to 200,000, you can.
Right, because you have to see yourself as a $10,000 a month person. That's why the people that hit the lotteries for big money, they're broke in less than a year, because they do not have the number one, they don't see themselves as a millionaire. And they get all this money at one time and they have no idea what they're doing, because they're still thinking in the $5,000 a month line. But now
Well,
they're thinking,
it
oh,
doesn't just have to be the people that win a lottery. You look at your baseball players or the sports people that are young and they make a huge amount of money for what they do. And that then later on it's they have nothing down the road. They haven't learned how to use the money that they got when they were young, because it was too much for them. They just didn't know. So
right. And then they start in other ways. So all of a sudden they have a drug problem. They've beaten their spouse or killed their spouse, because, and I think all of that comes from because they are overwhelmed and they don't know how to deal with this.
Right.
Sometimes too, it could be the other way. Like even I saw, we got a news flash. Largest lottery win available in Ontario tonight or whatever. And I was like, oh, well, that would take care of my, one of my financial goals. But for me, I was like, how do you play the lottery? Like, how do you do that? I've never done it. So I'm like, this is complicated.
I won $4 this week. I'm thrilled. That's a big win for me on the lottery.
For me, I have resistance towards figuring out how to play this thing and where do I go and where do I get the ticket. So for me, I can't attract this lottery win, not because of the abundance piece, but because those are the types of effort type things that people get into where I'm like, this is too confusing for me. I'll just go make $17 million. That I know in my head, like I could do that. But I feel like something like that, it gets complicated. And those are the types of things where we were talking about, that's where I act like a person that just says, well, that seems hard and complicated, so I'm not going to try, and leave it, where I probably could be a winner because I don't have a problem with winning the money.
You probably would, your first time out, you probably would win your 17 million. Right. And everybody go, damn. And there's other lottery winners that win 2 or 3 times and you're going, damn.
I know. And so I asked myself, like, what's your problem? Like, why wouldn't you do that? And
why are you holding up? Yeah.
So I have to look at and say, I have something that's in my belief system that says, no, you got to earn it. You can't just there's something wonky there that I'm thinking this week I'm going to learn, because I don't think anybody won it last week. So I'm going to learn.
Yeah, you need to work on that a little bit.
Like,
for sure.
I'm not going to do the lottery. That's like way too much work.
It's way too easy. You go to the gas station, you buy a lottery ticket too hard.
Priya's like, I don't go to gas stations.
I don't go to gas stations.
This
is so, I know it's actually laughable, but I'm like, I don't go in the gas station, so I don't even know how this works. Generally speaking, my husband's in the car, he does the thing. So I'm like, I don't know what this is, lottery. I don't know how to do it.
Your grocery stores don't have lottery places in the service area? You do go to the grocery store, right?
I don't. I have my groceries delivered. I know. I was like, send me this lottery ticket thing.
So lockdown really wasn't hard on you, was it?
It's
no,
like,
it really wasn't, because I was like, okay, this is not a big change. It's actually better because there were way more services delivering. So I was like, awesome. This is so good.
Okay, Priya, you've got to get out of the house.
Yes.
You've got to go to a grocery store. It's right at the front corner. The courtesy car. They have.
Okay, well, since we're setting goals from this chapter, I'm going to set a goal this week to learn to play the lottery.
Buy the ticket. Buy the ticket. They're usually $1 or $2. Just
but do you get to choose your numbers or something? Do you?
No, you can let the machine pick your numbers.
Okay.
Or you can choose your numbers, or you can choose them, but you can let the machine pick your numbers.
Okay.
And since now your dogs are legal immigrants, you can walk them to the store with you.
We
Oh,
want to
I
hear about
forgot
your
about
fortune
that,
next. We
didn't
want to
you?
hear about your fortune next week. Just like I heard about 16 cents from Rodney, I want to know your fortune.
I'll be like, oh my God, you guys, this lottery thing was so easy. I should have done it before.
Don't worry.
No, Rodney, this is what she's going to say. Oh my God, it was so easy. I won $3 million. You know, I'm
You know
going
what?
4 and she's going 3 million. It's just like, wow, I should have done this earlier.
And then she's going to look at her Facebook Messenger and say, why is Carolyn and Rod sending me their PayPal addresses? Well, because Carolyn and I started a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Then Rodney will say it's for parole.
Nope. Well, Priya can't even come visit us. Right?
I
They
can
Go
come
visit
visit
her.
you. I don't think you can come visit me.
right. But yeah, because you can't come visit us because won't they not let you back into your country?
No, I'm allowed back in. I would have to, I think they're starting to loosen up on that, but I think I can come back in. I would have to quarantine for 14 days. But that's changing, I think, mid-July.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully you win by then. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't play the lottery either. My friend, I told you, he wins all the time on the scratch off tickets, hundreds of dollars, $500, you know, here and there. But the big winner, it just
That's
eludes
the other
him.
kind. You can buy scratch off tickets and there's some way to,
I have proof of that. Look it, I have them here. I buy them for my husband, so he does them. So yes, we have. I have to go pick up the money. We won some money.
Oh, so you do know where it's located.
I know this. This I get at the at the Walgreens or whatever we got the drugstore. That once I'm leaving, sometimes I pick them up for him because I'm like, here, do this.
You can do it at the Walgreens. Just tell them, say, hey, you know
Okay.
the big winning thing?
Yeah.
Just have the computer print me some tickets.
Yeah.
I usually get, I figure I get 1 ticket of each, whatever, the lotto, the Powerball and whatever, because I figure the universe can bring me on that 1 ticket. I don't need to buy 10 or 20 tickets. I just need 1 ticket.
Right.
So,
Got you. Okay.
Oh, but now back to what you were saying about how these people, when you ask them about the money, you know, well, what do you want all this money for? What are you going to do with it? And this is exactly what this chapter is about. 98 out of 100 people, they do not clearly know what they want.
Nope.
But then they're always so surprised why they don't get the things that they say in their head they want. And I ask people all the time, well, did you write it down? No, I'm not. I didn't write it down. Why would I write it down? I know what I want. But you write it down. I told this to my son today. I said, you write it down because as you're writing it down, you're starting to get a clear picture in your mind of what it is you want.
Today? Again?
Huh?
You're telling your son again today to write it down?
Yes, and he's still like, no,
You
Dad.
should write it down for him to write it down.
Well, but he says, no, I don't do any of that. You know, 19 years old, they know everything,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, you need to do that. And now let's talk about we'll move on to the next section of that. The subconscious and the conscious mind. What did you like about that, the AB thing, where how the conscious mind can reason, you know, it can research and decide for itself, the A type, and it can also accept things as fact without research, the B type. But the subconscious can only do the B type, which is accept everything is true. And which we know is fact because when, you know, somebody watches something on TV about, oh, well, if your leg shakes in the middle of the night, you probably have restless leg syndrome. And they create that for them. Oh yeah, I believe I have that. You know, it's
what
like,
I got out of that though, Rodney, just to be, was we don't always know all the facts. So I mean, yeah, our subconscious mind will accept that facts, but there's always some facts coming around. It's like when they said, you know, Columbus found the world was round. Yeah, because people accepted it as flat because they didn't understand all the facts. Now, with Columbus, he added an extra fact. There's always going to be more facts added just because we don't see them and know them right now. We're always going to be a little bit limited in our beliefs because there could be a different fact coming around the corner in that, because there's new data coming around all the time. I mean, we didn't know about, it was there, but we didn't know about the law of attraction years ago and stuff like that. So new facts come around, we accept them, and the subconscious mind deals with them, but it may not always be a correct facts that we're dealing with because new things are coming around.
Exactly. But that's why it's so great with the subconscious, because the subconscious doesn't need all the facts. All it needs is to start.
Right.
And if you believe it's true, the subconscious is going to arrange things in a way that we have no idea of how it does it, so that it becomes true.
Right.
So, you okay there, Priya?
There we go. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry. I have incense burning in my office. It just got the better of me.
Oh, we thought you were at a rock concert. We saw the smoke. So, yes, actually, that's kind of funny because I'm at a hotel room tonight. I'm in this little town in Colorado. And when I checked in, you know how you have to initial things like about your car or whatever. There was one section you have to initial that you're not going to smoke marijuana in the room.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, no, that's not going to happen because I can't do that because I have I'm a commercial driver. But yeah, because, in this state, it's legal. So I guess you can go outside and smoke it, but you have to
it's
initial that
legal.
you're not going to smoke marijuana in the room.
Yeah, it's legal here too.
Is it really?
Okay.
Yeah. We have so many dispensaries around.
Huh. Still not legal in Missouri, but that's fine. I wouldn't get it, but that was legal even, so.
Yeah, same. Not my thing.
Not my thing.
Not my thing either. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Moving on. So I think the same thing. The subconscious is it's what you choose to put in it. So it's something, because as you say, it'll accept many things unless you're feeding it with something else. And you have to also examine, what is in your subconscious, what's already there.
Right.
Because that's one of the things I find with a lot of the work that I do is helping people look at what programs do they have running, what messages has their subconscious accepted that prevents them from changing and adapting to their goals. Because I see that a lot. So there's a message that says, like even for me, it's like, oh, going to the store to buy lottery is a nuisance. So we can't win the lottery. Like it's just something so simple as that, or it's difficult, or it's, confusing. That's the message that will stop me from doing something.
Well, but see, you understand those messages. A lot of people don't understand those messages, which is like he was talking about. They hear something on the news. They see something on the TV. Their broke brother-in-law tells them something, and they believe that is truth. And I can't explain it. I don't. If you wanted to create something, you wanted to learn how to paint with watercolors. Why would anybody take any advice or any comments from anybody that has not done that particular thing?
I have no idea.
But
people do it all the time.
Yes.
And they want support. They want backing. They want people to validate them. They aren't strong within themselves. They want, oh, that's a great idea. You do that. Okay, you can do that. They want somebody to give them that support.
Right, which takes us back to what we started talking about, how everybody gets a trophy. You're not different, but now they want to be recognized as different. But they
want to be recognized for their ability to do something. They want to be able to. They don't have enough self-confidence in themselves. you know.
Right. But then,
But I think the fact that they don't have enough self-confidence in themselves has to do with their subconscious mind. So they will subconsciously seek people who will reinforce that and be like, yeah, I don't even think that's a good idea. Or I know somebody that did that and that didn't work out.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think it depends on what you're, you have to look at what you're looking for. So you're going to be looking for somebody who will tell you you can do it, or you're going to look for somebody who can tell you you can't, depending on what your belief system is.
Right.
right. And yeah, and then they end up saying, yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't do that. You know, that's
I
kind
think
of
that
what I
the most
thought.
important thing in this chapter is the description around how you bring something about that you want to create, and how you use the power of, focusing your subconscious mind, or focusing your thoughts or your imagination, whatever you want to call it, towards creating that vibration of it, that energy of it, those visions of it, that, being in the like, when he was reading the policy and everything 30 nights in a row, that kind of stuff, that's what does it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a tremendous power. And
Yeah,
so,
it is huge. And it's the first thing, like even last week, my daughter came to me and she was struggling with finding a job, this and that. And I said, you know what? You got to look at what you're doing. Thank you. You got to look at what you're doing on a daily basis, in terms of how you're projecting yourself into your future. Because what you are right now is what you've already created that. So when you're trying to create something in the future, you've got to fast forward to what that is going to look like, feel like, smell like, taste like, sound like, and emulate that and be as much in that energy as possible. So for me, like with what I'm creating, I rearranged my whole office. I changed it around because this is what I think this person does and looks like and is going to feel like.
I noticed your bookshelves in the back there.
Yeah, because I moved everything around. So it's like, now I have my whiteboard in front of me and I move stuff around. So there's certain things, and what do I need and what do I not need anymore? This is what I needed when I was being this. Now I need this. It's sort of like, I don't know, even as you go through life and phases, you have to grow and acquire the tools that you need and get rid of the ones that you don't.
Yes. And you start to pick that up along your path because you didn't know about those things. That's like the item that you ended up picking up in the store at whatever that little thing was. You didn't know what you would use that for, but something knew that you needed it. So you picked it up, and then all of a sudden you attracted a client that needed that particular item.
Yeah.
And I believe that's what happened. You attracted that client because now
So if
you
you
have
take it,
resource.
yeah, because you're prepped for it. So if you take this subconscious and couple it with what we know about Abraham and listening to your inner being, once you start to practice being in that future self, then your inner being will start to guide you through, in knowings or feelings or thoughts or things that come up for you, those signs and that guidance that says, do this, pick this up, try this, read this, talk to this person, go here. And then it starts to lead you to it.
Right. And just like Carolyn, she wants her millions. So today, she needs to be preparing herself and acting in certain ways, like if she had that millions in her bank.
I've had a couple days where it's just been unscheduled things have happened and I was in the wrong place, and I had like 4 hours of time that I didn't have anything to do. And it was like, now I'm going to pretend like I'm retired and I have these hours of just easy time. I don't have to be here. And I've been doing that kind of thing, preparing for that. Oh, I'm not bored. I'm not, a lot of people go, oh, retired, bored, no, I'm just really enjoying the ease of the day. And so it's actually been very enjoyable to have a couple of days like that, where it's just like, I don't have to do work today because I messed up on my schedule and I've got 4 hours that I should have been, instead of I got up at 5 a.m, got to a job at 9 and it wasn't until 1:30. So it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this time? Because it was an hour and a half away from home. It was not drive home and then drive back for 3 hours. So I just enjoyed the day.
Better early than late.
Yep.
See, you're preparing yourself. So, it's like, that's,
and
yeah.
it happens. Like I same type of thing. Like I went away a few weeks ago with my husband. We managed to get away for a couple of days, and we stayed in this place. Had the coolest fridge. I was like, this fridge is so cool. And I'm thinking, I really want a fridge like this. But there's nothing wrong with the fridge we have. So whenever it's time to buy a new fridge, I would like to have a fridge like this. And don't I come home and then within a week, my ice maker conks out on me. And I forgot about it because I'm not a big ice drinker, but the rest of them. So we had family over today. And the first thing, then we go to get drinks and there's no ice. And I was like, I need that new fridge now. So your subconscious is very powerful in so many ways. When you start to direct and focus, you will make some things happen that you're like, how did I even do that?
Right. It's showing you in advance what you need that you don't know you're needing it. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so like, hey, here's your neat refrigerator that you want. You're going to need it in 2 weeks.
Yes, but I also feel like there's a level of, I'm moving into that mindset of, that millionaire mindset of, oh, I want this. But I still have that little voice from my parents, like, well, you don't need a new fridge. Why are you spending the money? You should. So I feel like it's almost like I created the brokenness of the fridge I had so I could justify to them and get what I wanted. So
Right.
You
Well,
don't have to answer
that
your
makes
mom and
sense.
dad anymore, Priya.
I know it. And I tell myself that. And then my dad comes over today because I was like, oh, I got this outdoor tool. And he's like, well, don't let it fall in the pool when it's plugged in. I was like, Dad, I think I'm going to be 50 next year and I don't need that warning anymore. So I don't know. Chicken before the egg. Did I create that or did they? I have no idea.
But to the parents, you're still the little girl.
I know.
And that's just the way it is.
My mom, I told you my mom's turning 100 next week. So I saw her this week and I said, well, how old do you think you are, Mom? And she goes, 60. I'm really? I'm 68. What the fuck?
I know, right? I know.
So,
It's a Benjamin Button story.
oh, I tell you what. So dementia can be really good within your place that you're not really, I know she wouldn't be happy not if she had a right mind. So it's actually worked out good. And if she wants to be 60, she can be 60 as long as she wants to be 60.
Oh, I didn't know she had dementia, but I was thinking, I told myself the same thing today because I was like, wait, he's 21? That means I'm not 21. And I don't even have dementia. So
Oh no, she's got real bad
be in
dementia.
my own zone.
There you go.
Yeah, you gotta be 39 now.
I'm like,
Well,
shoot, these kids keep putting my fantasy age up. They're blowing my
Well,
cover.
I was like 35 for like 6 years.
Right?
And it's like, I mean, I don't even, like I told my daughter today, I said, when you popped out, you had jet black hair and bright green eyes. I said, now I don't even know what your hair color is. She changes it so often. She's like, well, I know what it is. I said, no, you don't. You don't. You don't. But I mean, her eyes changed and her hair color changed, but
Yeah.
kids. So there is this one passage I like here. He says that it is necessary that each of us decide what we want to be and what we want to have. Until we definitely decide what our goal is, we will be confronted with the necessity of making a new decision every day of what our goal is for that particular day. Now, I don't know, because I think a lot of people that don't have goals, I don't think they decide about anything every day.
Yeah.
Because they're working on mostly autopilot.
Well, they're working on somebody else's goals.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And who said that? You're either going to build your dream or somebody's going to enlist you to build theirs. And that's true. That's definitely true. Because if you're not working on something for your dream, because you don't know what your dream is, because you're part of the 98%, but this stuff is not difficult. and we have covered it. Carolyn, how many times have we covered goals?
Oh, frequently. Yeah.
And on
How do
these,
you track your goals? How do you guys track your goals?
define track. Carolyn and I both had to say,
Is that
define what,
necessary?
define track, you mean track the progress of goals or just track where you wrote them down?
Oh, track the progress. And what's your ritual or your routine around goal achievement? Do you just set them and go, or do you?
Set them and go. No,
I have now gotten them written down, but as
Okay.
far as, I mean, tracking, again, my main one's retirement, I'm sure I'm not retired now because I think all the time about work. It's just a constant thought process. It's just like, it just does not get out of my mind. Oh, I've got to get this job done. I've got to get this job done. And what that tells me is I'm not quite ready at this point to retire. It's just, and that's okay. That's okay. So.
And what I do is I write them down and define them clearly. And then I don't focus on the when and all that stuff. I just pay attention. And if I get a thought that feels good, I follow that thought. If I, don't get anything, I don't think about it. In other words, I don't think about it again. Like the other day, I was looking at Teslas. Did I tell you that, Carolyn? I was looking at Teslas and I found one actually near me.
Okay.
And, then that prompted me to start looking at the battery life. And I didn't know that there was a difference between the models I knew there was a difference between the models, but like the low end, the Model 3, that doesn't even have a speedometer or anything in it. It's just a steering wheel in front of the dashboard. And that has an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on the battery. Now the Model S, like I like, is an 8-year unlimited mileage warranty for the battery. So, I mean, there's just little things I'm starting to learn about them and that I didn't know before, but I still don't have that feeling of like, when am I going to get this car? I don't.
Does it take one of those, like a charger or something that you have to have at your house?
No, you can go to there's plenty of charging stations around.
So it's not something you would purchase for your home?
No, I wouldn't have to do that. No.
No. Okay. So are there, I'm just asking because I'm thinking, is there something that you would need or that you would buy once you have that car that's maybe, easily attainable financially right now that you would buy so that you start to set that in motion, the energy of it further?
Yes, I would buy a car cover. Set the pollen doesn't get on there. And
So would you buy like for me, remember when I bought the bar before I even had the basement? Like it's sort of like the thing that sort of solidifies, okay, yeah, I know this is coming, so I may as well get this ready type of thing.
Right. Buy the curtains and everything before you have the apartment.
Yeah.
That was Florence, wasn't it? Carolyn, the lady, when she had all her clothes and everything in the trunk, and she's like, well, I'm going to buy, prepare for my new place.
That's right.
And everybody told her she was foolish.
Right.
She needed to go work. But yes, and what I do, I don't know if you knew this, but like when I get in my car now, I pretend that that's the inside of the thing. I look over at the dash and I pretend that the big, because the Teslas have that big screen there. And I pretend that I'm looking at that and I'm looking where the charging stations are and everything. That's what I do when I get in my car now.
You can print the logo and put it on your steering wheel.
There you go.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah. But I mean, so yes, that is what I'm doing towards my goals. And see, but I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up too, because they think that even if they do write down a goal, then it's just like, okay, I wrote it down, so now I'm going to get it. No, what you're going to get is you're going to get clues like a treasure hunt. You're going to get hints. You're going to get a thought. You're going to get a feeling. You're going to get something because you have to move from where you are. You have to take certain action steps to get to the place to have the thing. You can't just write it down and say, like for the lottery ticket, you can write it down, you can define it, you can get all excited about winning and how good you would feel to win, but eventually you have to leave the house and go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I
Because
believe
you
that.
can,
I think what would happen though is you would get the inclination or the motivation or that feeling like, oh, you know what, I feel like I want to go do this. Because the other thing too, when I look at, we can do all the like the writing down, I totally believe in that. When you look at they're talking about having the party for the house celebrating the debut on TV, right?
right,
And about 3 months before the first television program. So I think there's also a physical action and enactment that you can get into that I feel like a lot of people think is wonky or hokey or like weird to do, which I have, but I have no problems doing it. And so I find that really accelerates things because you can get that clarity. It's almost like you're writing it down as like your script, and then you start rehearsing. That's where I think is people don't get into, like, they don't put that extra rehearsal into it. They just go write the script and then head to look for opening night to come. And it's sort of like, I find this type of description, and I've had a lot of success with doing it this way, is that rehearsing of what it's going to be like and all kinds of stuff. Like there's just even this, like I bought these champagne flutes because it's part of my luxury collection of what I feel like I'm going to be doing all day. And it may not be champagne that I drink, but I don't care, because I was just like, well, I'm just going to be like this all day long, whatever I'm doing, enjoying it. And then I'm like, and
Those
every
are
time
pretty.
I'm like automatically on my yacht. And then it's just like, okay. So there's certain little things that I feel that we can take it to a next level of getting into, and props, so to speak, for things like, I just know that when I make certain decisions, like, oh, I'm buying this thing that I know I'm going to need for the thing that's coming to me, that sets it in stone. And I know, because I'm like, I know I'm getting it, so I'm going to do this, because it also, it sort of, I feel like it speaks to my subconscious and says, I'm telling you, I believe it, because that's why I'm doing this. So you can believe it too. And now we can start moving along and making this happen.
right. And that's like that, like he said, I love that part where you do something now that would only happen if you reached your goal. And I think Carolyn and I talked about this when I said, like, one of the things, and you touched on it, Priya, the car that I would have to do, and I could only do if I had the car, was charge it, because charging it doesn't work without the car. So what I do sometimes when I go to the Wawa, I back my car up to the charging station and I pretend that I'm going to be charging the car while I go inside, because that is that's the only time that would happen, is if you actually had that.
Yeah.
So otherwise it would just be stupid to go to the charging station when you have a gasoline powered vehicle. So unless you want to blow yourself up. So but I don't want to do that. Oh yeah.
So
And
Priya, how do you track yours?
thank you, Carolyn.
I do the same thing. So I ask myself in the morning, okay, let me define, just check in, where are my goals? And then I ask my inner being to guide me to what's the priority for me today that leads me to that goal. And it might not have anything, like it might be to go in the backyard or clean the yard or whatever it might be. But it's just what gets me in a vibrational alignment towards my goal. I just look for that. When it comes down to monetary goals and stuff like that, I have trackers for my sales and stuff like that, but I I keep it really loose. Like I just check in. I don't do it on a daily basis. I maybe check it every couple of weeks just as to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening and see the growth versus looking at how far I have to go. And just, checking back in my book, like wherever I have it written down, and at meditation, just going into meditation, spending that time and the energy, also envisioning it, spending as much time as I can in the vibration of what it's going to be like, and getting more and more familiar with that in my entire being, and seeing what else I pick up, like what other things I find when I go into that space through a meditative state.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and especially when you enlist other people in your fantasy.
Yes.
You know, it's like, but sometimes they don't like to be willing participants. But hey, get over it.
I know, that's what I said. I'm like, Matthew, whatever, it's okay. She'll be fine that you've left her and come. No, I'm kidding. Actually,
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. No, but it's so true. Like sometimes, and I see it within my family, because I tell I'm telling my kids about the stuff I'm going to do, and this and that's happening and whatever. And there's some days they'll humor me, and there's some days they might actually be on board with it. And other days I can just tell they just look at me and I'm like, whatever, I don't care. In my world, it's happening. I don't really care what you say.
Yeah,
I have enough relief for all of us.
not too much happening yet on the Matthew front. You know.
Sorry. He's busy. It's okay.
Well, he's busy.
He's busy. He's trying to make a
Like,
difference in the world. It takes time.
But no.
I listened to his book while I was driving, and so yeah, it's interesting to have him read the book to you.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah.
It's just like, you can take your shoes off here anytime.
Green lights in my house. That's for sure.
Honey, I'll be back. I gotta go buy a lottery ticket.
I'm actually excited to do it, which is a different feeling than I had before. So I'm like, okay, this is but I think again, that's the nature of the benefits of our group, or groups like this, or when you co-create or you get into a vibration of like-minded people, is something that when you're talking to someone who isn't like-minded can become a drag, because I'll be like all excited over something, and then you get to someone who's like, oh, well, that never, or oh yeah, I don't know how to do it. But coming into a space and a place with like-minded people, and sort of, feeding that back to you, like I find even just being on this call, I'm in a different vibration about it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And I need to thank Carolyn, because Carolyn was the propulsion that caused me to deal with the thing I'm dealing with, because she was saying how, when she, like last month or whatever, a couple weeks ago, she had finished up her taxes, and she was like, oh, I didn't know at first how I was going to be able to handle it. And then she ended up handling it. And I got thinking about things, and I got thinking that, hey, there's certain things I want to do moving forward. And I got to, you have to move forward with a clean slate sometimes.
You have to just get things off your plate, because otherwise they just weigh you down.
That's what it is, Carolyn.
Yeah. And so, it's just, I've got to do, it's going to be done. It's got to be done anyway. So I might as well just get it over with, is how I always look at it. It's just like, it's,
Right. I mean, and I was happy to pay a person to, just like you said, you don't want to do your yard. You're happy to pay somebody to do the yard. Not that it's something that you can't do.
Right.
But hey, I'm retired. I'm not going to do my yard. I'm a
millionaire.
Yeah, here you go. Here's $100, dude.
Yeah, really.
The other thing too is that can be someone's passion. Like there's someone out there that loves to do your yard.
And they need to do my yard. I mean, they just need to do it because that's how they're making their fortune. So I'm giving them a benefit, and they're giving me a benefit. It's a win-win.
And even I like the ones that love to do it, because then they're benefiting. They have a passion for it. There's some people that come in and find it like just a yard cleanup. They find that so satisfying.
Right.
To start finish it. So it's just, there's so many ways of looking at things, and that's how I look at it too. It's like there's somebody out there, because sometimes I feel like, oh, am I being lazy? Like, I mean, I could go and get my groceries myself. It's not even that. I'm like, the amount of time to walk through that store, I could be doing so many other things. So if someone has the time and they don't mind and they're earning from that and they're okay to go do that, then
Yeah, it's good for you.
Right.
It's good for them.
yeah,
That's right. Everybody wins.
I think
So,
so.
and that's, and like I said today, when I kind of backed off from like apologizing or not acting like I, with from my daughter. I've been working on that this past couple weeks too, about being more gracious about accepting things, even little things, because I hear both of you in my head all the time that, you know, I mean, why why deny a gift if it's coming your way, right?
Exactly.
And don't ever think about, the other person of, oh, well, they might need this or they shouldn't be doing that because I know they don't have the time to do it. Forget
Yep.
it.
Rodney, Pri and I freely give you our gift of wisdom.
You do. So, you know,
That's why we're in your head all the time.
um, now I'm gonna be now I'm gonna be thinking about champagne flutes for the rest of the week. It's
Those are neat. Those are neat. I like those a lot.
Right?
yes.
There was a lady selling them on Facebook Marketplace. I got them for like $10 or something. She sold me a whole slew of these types of glasses, which went in my new bar, don't you know?
Oh wow.
So
My
it was
my
just
my neighbor down at 5 o'clock, retired neighbor, and she's 80 years old. At 5 o'clock, you go down there and it's champagne every night.
yeah.
So it's just like you sit
And
there and I gotta go to work, and so she'll go, oh no, champagne, you can work after. I'm just like,
I found it de-alcoholized champagne.
oh yeah,
So it's funny because it was my son's birthday. We decided to have a drink last night at midnight, and my 14-year-old son, I just see him like near the bar, which I'm like, what is he doing? Went there once, went there twice. So he went in because I actually have it in a wine fridge, and he comes back out with this de-alcoholized champagne, like he's just popping a cork, and I'm like, okay. But he's visualizing something else. So at 14, he's thinking he's visualizing in his head, he's partying it up like an adult. And I'm like, okay, fine, go for it.
yeah. He's
With
21
this,
now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my dad, he buys that Heineken Zero beer. It has no alcohol in it. But when I drink it, sometimes I feel like a little loopy after
right?
drinking it, even though it's no alcohol. Maybe I'm just ridiculous.
I know 6 glasses of bubbly water, and I'm on the table like,
Come here, honey. Get up here. It's not, oh my goodness. Woo. We're winding down, folks. We're,
you're
when
like,
we're,
she's back.
when Priya's up on the tables, we're getting near the end of this. Yeah, so the end, he was talking about, like you said, his party that he had.
And it happened to be on June 19th. Did you notice that? Which was
Yes, I
yesterday.
did notice that
It
actually.
did, yeah.
So that was weird timing, or was it? Or was it?
See, because if we were here last week, it wouldn't have been June 19th.
No, it wouldn't. That's very observant, Priya. The champagne has not got to you yet. If we were here last week, we would not be here on this day this week, this chapter. So that's good. So anything else on this,
Nope.
Carolyn?
I can't think of anything else. I thought it was a good chapter, but I mean, the ending line is, let me challenge you to know that we live in an inexhaustible abundance in this universe. There is no limit to what you can be or have except your ability to dream and believe in your dream.
Amen.
And it says, make large plans, for they have magic to stir my blood.
That's right.
It says men's blood, but I always have to change that sexist little comment that they put in there. So,
well, let's remember it wasn't sexist back then because that was the way everybody thought.
there's where the facts are. You know, it was sexist back then, but everybody
Well, you know what I meant. Yeah, that was very
it's just an accepted way of thinking. You know, it's not sexist now because we think this way.
and shit, I didn't stop the recording. Right when I put
Too
my
slow, too slow.
So let's stop the recording and thank everybody for being. So we will see you next week. And thank you. And everybody just hang on here. Recording stopped. Yeah.